All right, everyone, you know what it is. Season 5, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, filming locations for here in the city of Philadelphia. Let's not waste any more time and let's just go ahead and get into it. While Charlie and Dennis are arguing about bird law, Frank announces that he just bought a house. Dee mentions that she's now going to be a surrogate for a family wanting to have a kid. The guys head over to Frank's new place, which he apparently bought in foreclosure. When they get there, they realize that there's one small problem. The family is still living there. They bail and they come back later, only to discover that the lawyer is now representing that family. He informs the gang that they have 90 days to vacate. Charlie tries to debate him on bird law, but completely loses.
Now let's say you and I go toe-to-toe on bird law and see who comes out the victor.
I can see clearly you know nothing about the law. It seems like you have a tenuous grasp on the English language in general.
Okay, well, filibuster.
From here, everybody splits off. Dee goes to live with the surrogate couple. We then cut to some B-roll footage from season 3, and then Mac, Dennis, and Frank return trying. Yeah.
Are you the cops, bro?
Am I? No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not cops.
You take my picture, please?
Yeah. Can you give me a few minutes?
No. Can you take my picture now?
You want your picture now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't have a way to give it to you. Do you have?
This is just shield day, so I need a good picture of you.
You need a good picture? All right.
I'm wearing balaclava too.
Okay. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Hold on one sec, all right?
Happy Just Shield Day. It's a real house.
From here, everyone splits off. Charlie decides that he's going to challenge the lawyer to a duel. Dee goes to live with the couple that she's planning to be a surrogate for. We then cut to some B-roll footage from season 3, then jump into a scene where Mac and Dennis are trying to sell the house as realtors on Frank's behalf. Meanwhile, Frank is having the children of the house do manual labor. We then get the first new footage of this season. This is taken from the southwest corner of City Hall. This is used to represent the lawyer's office. You may notice that despite the location changing, the inside of the lawyer's office has remained the same. The lawyer gets off the phone after hearing about Mac and Dennis's attempts to sell the house, and then Charlie comes in to try and challenge the lawyer to a duel. He's surprised to find out that the lawyer does not want to back down. And then at the end of the episode, the whole gang shows up to Dee's surrogate family, and they just pretty much ruin her whole scheme there. The gang sets out on a road trip, and they quickly discover a couple things about Charlie. One, he's never been outside of the city of Philadelphia. 2, he's also never had a pair, amongst a number of other things. So they decide that they're going to make a quick detour to the Italian market. It's here at the 1500 block of Moyamensing that they find themselves behind a slow guy on a bicycle, and they get very upset. So Mac leans out the window and he throws a bottle at the guy on the bike, hitting him, and he falls off. They end up running over his bike, and it gets lodged under Dennis's Range Rover, rendering it inoperable. When Dee goes into the bar to use the bathroom, the guys end up stealing the new car that she had just purchased to replace the one that Mac and Charlie had previously destroyed. And then we see them driving here at 1334 Front Street, right in front of Frida Brand Meat. And yeah, after that, we end up getting some footage where Dee actually catches up to them, but all of that stuff was filmed in Los Angeles. We then see them driving past here on 116 Greenwich. It's located between Front and 2nd Street. The guys are in the back and they're smoking despite Dee's protest. They're also cramped back there with the cooler. At this point, Frank and Dennis decide that they're gonna go ahead and sit in the back of the trailer. We then find the gang here at the Italian market near 9th and Carpenter. We've covered the Italian market quite a bit, so we're not gonna go into too much detail, but Charlie does not enjoy his first pair experience. Frank goes and gets some wicker chairs. Dee gets some cassette tapes. Mac and Charlie try to hotwire the car, but they fail to do so despite the fact that Mac's dad has taught them multiple times. Throughout the rest of the episode, they end up picking up a hitchhiker who steals the car, and they never actually make it out of Philly and do their road trip. Mac, Charlie, and Dennis find an RV parked right in front of the bar, so they walk inside to find something sharp to stab the tires with. When they go in, they discover that Frank is trying to turn himself into a Christmas ornament because he lost all of his money in a Ponzi scheme. We then find Mac, Dennis, and Frank here at the Dave & Buster's located on Christopher Columbus Boulevard, just north of the Ben Franklin Bridge and Penn's Landing. Mac and Dennis are expecting to receive bonuses despite running the bar into the ground. Frank tells them that he's not going to bail them out anymore because he doesn't have any money. With Mac and Dennis left in charge, they try and get Dee and Charlie to justify why they shouldn't be fired. Just north of Penn's Landing and... No, you're fine. Frank leaves Mac and Dennis in charge of the bar, and he goes off to start his own new business, which is just selling vacuum cleaners and knives. Charlie tries to move back into his mom's house after Frank sublets their apartment, but he discovers that his Uncle Jack is now renting his room.
You can share the room with me, Charlie. You know, you and me palling around, getting nuts, doing crazy fun. It's stuff that relatives do. We'll share the room, Charlie. You ever seen wrestling on television?
I am well aware of what wrestling is. It's just not what uncles do to their nephews.
Dee quits her job at Patty's because she doesn't want to be subjected to Mac and Dennis's scrutiny. Frank immediately hires her and brings her here to the Race Street Pier so that she can meet Frank's new business partner, which is just Charlie, who is selling Delaware River crabs. As you can tell, the Race Street Pier has been renovated quite a bit. It's a very nice place. It's not all broken down and messed up. By the end of the episode, Frank ends up getting a bailout from the government, and he tells the rest of the gang to come join him for steaks and skee ball so that they can discuss their bailout as well. The gang is driving in the car and Frank is in the back seat, 3 sheets to the wind, completely drunk off his ass and extremely happy. Why is he so happy, you ask? Well, they're going to the funeral of Dee and Dennis's uncle, and Frank is going to use this as an opportunity to try and bang their aunt, Aunt Donna, who is also his ex-sister-in-law. While at the funeral, Dee and Dennis's cousin, Gail the Snail, shows up, and they all try and do their best to try and blow her off. Frank's antics at the funeral have caused us to come here at 10th and Locust. This is the Kimmel Cancer Center. They've come here so that they can speak with a therapist about possibly having an intervention for Frank. However, after a very brief discussion, the therapist suggests the idea of them having a group therapy because, let's be honest, they could all use it. They're not too keen on the fact that the therapist tried to do her own little intervention on them, so they decide that they're going to put matters into their own hands and do their own intervention for Frank without the therapist. We then find Frank and Mac walking here on Church Road. It is a small road outside of Center City. It's about a 20-minute drive. It's pretty easy to find, but Mac and Frank are walking here, and Mac tries to convince Frank that instead of going after Aunt Donna, he should try and bang Gail the Snail, his niece, but it's not weird because they are not blood related. Back at the bar, the gang is hosting an intervention for Frank. Frank comes in with pistols drawn, and he treats the whole thing as if it's some sort of roast. The therapist eventually just gives up and leaves the gang to their own shenanigans. Dee has been trying on wedding dresses every weekend for the past year, and while she's at the store, she runs into a guy named Brad Fisher, who she used to date back in high school, but broke up with him because he had bad acne. But this turns into a little bit of an ugly duckling situation, and she is now infatuated with him. While she's flirting, she finds out that Brad is about to get married to the waitress. She goes back to the bar, and the guys are trying to get rid of a hornet's nest. Dee tries to recruit Mac and Dennis to help out with the Brad Fisher and waitress situation under the guise of it being to help protect Charlie from heartbreak when he finds out that the waitress gets married. So Mac and Dennis decide that they're gonna go help Charlie out with making a dating profile. Charlie's favorite food is milk steak, his favorite hobbies are magnets, and he hates people's knees. As far as I'm concerned, that sounds like a pretty awesome dating profile to me. And we end up getting this B-roll footage, which is taken from the Grandview condominiums. That's this building right behind me. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get up to the rooftop. They wouldn't let me get access. I don't know why, because I seem like a pretty awesome, trustworthy guy, but then again, I can't blame them. I wouldn't let me up there anyway either. So this is the best that I'm gonna be able to do to recreate it. But this overlooks 676 heading towards east, and yeah. Grandview condominiums located on 11th and Arch. Dee is stalking the waitress and Brad when she finds them here over by the corner of 16th and Oregon. She hops out of the car to let the waitress know that she is throwing a bachelorette party for her, and Brad is also invited so that he can meet all of the waitress's friends. In previous seasons, Dee's house was represented with a location over by the Italian market, but she has since moved over here to 438 Federal. It is here that she is having her bachelorette party for the waitress. Charlie goes out on a blind date and he comes here to the Maggiano's located at 12th and Filbert. This is the same location that we covered in season 3, episode 7, The Gang Sells Out. He is having a hard time keeping up with his story where he's supposed to be a philanthropist.
I'm a full-on rapist, you know? Africans, dyslexics, children, that sort of thing.
Eventually, his blind date ends up leaving, and then Dennis reveals to him that the waitress is getting married. Back at Dee's apartment at the bachelorette party, Dee is playing a questions game to try and blow up the waitress's spot. It's here that it is revealed that Frank also managed to hook up and bang the waitress. The waitress and Brad end up leaving, and then Brad comes back a little bit later and he reveals his love for Dee. At the end of the episode, Charlie goes to visit Brad at 1024 Carpenter Street. It's here that he's trying to give him a gift, and Brad reveals to Charlie that he ended up calling off the wedding, and it was all just a big game for him to get back at girls who hurt him back in high school. Charlie ends up giving him the gift anyway, and it's just a box of Hornets. The first new scene that we get for episode 6 is taken from the south side of City Hall on Broad Street. Dennis is in court to defend himself against $1,300 worth of parking tickets. He brought the entire gang with him to corroborate his story. Apparently, the Phillies are in the World Series and the gang is pre-gaming at the bar. There's a plan for Mac and Charlie to start a fight to distract security so that Dee can run out onto the field and kiss one of the players. Frank then realizes that he has left the tickets at home, so Dennis and Charlie decide to go to the parking lot of the stadium to find a good spot while the rest of them go back to Frank and Charlie's apartment to get the tickets. And then we end up getting this B-roll footage, which is taken from the intersection of Washington and Broad. After this, we find Frank, Mac, and Dee going back to Frank's apartment so that they can get the tickets, but they discover that the apartment building is being fumigated for bed bugs. Frank decides that he's going to take a garden hose and leave one end outside, and he's going to use that to supply him with fresh air. During this time, Mac is trying to convince Dee to take his love letter and deliver it to Chase Utley when she runs out onto the baseball field to kiss a player. At this point, they discover that Frank has dragged his garden hose inside and he can no longer get fresh air, so Mac and Dee decide to rush into the apartment to save the tickets. They don't actually care about Frank, but they all end up succumbing to the gas and passing out. Meanwhile, at Citizens Bank Park, Dennis and Charlie are trying to find a way to sneak into the stadium. Charlie comes up with the brilliant idea of shoving Dennis in front of a car, and then they were going to extort tickets from the driver of said car. While Dennis is recovering from his wounds, Charlie sees the Philly fanatic dressed up as the Green Man. He goes up to the fanatic and tries to talk to him, you know, mano-a-mano, peer-to-peer. But the Philly fanatic's not too into it. He ends up belly bumping Charlie. Charlie goes into a fit of rage and starts beating up the beloved mascot. A couple guys see it and they intervene, making a throwback joke to when Mac punched Carmen back in season 1.
That guy's beating on the fanatic. Dude, is that a hate crime? Nah, it's not a hate crime. Want to hammer his ass anyway? Definitely.
Frank, Mac, and Dee show up at the stadium, and Dee mentions a secret tunnel leading from the hotel. Charlie was talking about it earlier, but they're gonna try and use that to sneak into the stadium. They go to the hotel and they end up getting locked inside of a linen closet as they're searching for the tunnel. They claim that they found a secret little dungeon that is filled with dead bodies, and they were stuck in that linen closet for 6 days. The judge isn't buying the story, and she orders Dennis to pay the entire fine. The gang is at the bar watching a wrestling match when Dee suddenly gets a message on her laptop from a soldier that she's been messaging online. She's been using the name Desert Rose to talk with him, and he is coming back from a deployment in Iraq. Mac, Charlie, and Dennis end up going to a local wrestling match, and Mac tells them that he has rented the place out for Friday night for an event. Dee is then seen waiting for the soldier to get off the bus, and Frank shows up, hoping to recruit the soldier to promote the wrestling match for him. When the soldier gets off the bus, he's in a wheelchair, and Dee starts to pretend that she is not Desert Rose, but Desert Rose's friend, and she just came to pass the message along. And that's when we get our first scene here at 20th and Lombard. Dee's meeting with Artemis so that she can pass her off as Desert Rose, but when she sees that the soldier is standing and he's able to walk, she goes up and confronts him about it. Apparently it wasn't a war injury. He had actually just gotten injured when he was getting off the plane in Germany. Charlie's created something called Kitten Mittens. Dee and Frank get into a dispute with Mac and Dennis about merchandise for Patty's Pub. Mac and Dennis decide that they're gonna sell their own merchandise, and yes, there is actually a dicktowel.com. I looked it up, and you can go buy one of the Dick towels for yourself if you really want. It's not towards the end of the episode that we end up getting this new shot. This is taken from the intersection of the Benjamin Franklin Parkway, Arch Street, and 16th Street. This is used to represent the merchandising convention where the gang comes to try and get new potential investors for their products. Charlie is the only one who actually gets a new investor, and it turns out that is the lawyer. The lawyer ends up having them sign a whole bunch of documents, and one of those documents is a restraining order because they were too lazy to actually read what they were signing when the lawyer was helping them out. Mac and Dennis go over to Dee's place and they find out that she got a cat, and they try to use this to convince her that she is turning into a lonely cat lady. They came over so that they could borrow a bowl for popcorn for their movie night. Dee uses this as a jumping off point to convince them that they're spending way too much time together and they're like an old married couple who are inseparable. We then get this B-roll footage, which is taken from Dickinson and Moya Mensing. We covered this area in season 2 with Mac's mom's house. This is now used to represent their apartment. Mac is waiting for Dennis to come back from the video store. When he finally does, they get into a little bit of a conflict, and it causes them to basically break up. So Mac heads off to Frank and Charlie's place so that he can go live with them. We then get this B-roll footage, which is taken from the art museum steps. Dennis goes over to Dee's place for a movie night, but Dee isn't very interested in watching a movie because she just got her cat stuck in a wall. Back at Frank and Charlie's place, Mac is not very happy with their sanitation standards. Charlie ends up getting pretty annoyed with Mac, so he accepts Dennis's invitation over to Dee's place for a movie night. When he goes over there, he tries to help Dee out, but he just ends up getting more cats stuck in the wall. Dee eventually sets up a blind date for Mac and Dennis to get them back together because everyone's just annoyed of their crap. Dennis is explaining his system that he uses to seduce women and win them back whenever he wants after he breaks their hearts. His very first step is to demonstrate value, which he does by filling a prescription for his ailing grandma. Dee doesn't seem to think that this method actually works, so he bets her that he can prove her wrong and he can win the pharmacist back by the end of the day. So that's when we find ourselves here at the intersection of 12th and Dickinson. This is Berlatoni's pharmacy. Dennis comes back here to win over the pharmacist Kaylee. She starts to doubt that his story is even true because Dr. Mancis Toboggan, who writes those prescriptions, doesn't even live in Philadelphia, and she doesn't even think that he has an actual grandma. While he's here, Dennis runs into Frank and Mac. Mac has his own method where he comes in and he gets Dennis's sloppy seconds, and then Frank comes in for the third. Later on in the episode, we see Mac bringing Kaylee to a local fair, and then Dennis runs into them while he is pushing this woman that he has used for his grandma.
My grandmother was a lesbian.
However, everything all goes topsy-turvy when Frank shows up as Dr. Mancis Toboggan, and he tells Dennis that he has AIDS. He also drops his monster condom for his magnum dong.
Whoa, whoops, oh! I dropped my monster condom that I use for my magnum dong.
Mac and Charlie are trying to write a movie, so we find them here at the Charles Santor branch of the Philadelphia Public Library. It's located here at 7th and Carpenter. They came here so that they could find an Indian guy to help them write the movie because they believe that they are naturally good storytellers. However, they don't end up finding that. Instead, they end up finding a kid from Baltimore who is of Pakistani descent, so they figure those two countries are close enough. That's good, we'll roll with it. The only new scene that we get for this episode is this view of the Ben Franklin Bridge just north of Penn's Landing, right next to the Dave & Buster's located on Christopher Columbus Boulevard. In this episode, the gang is trying to reignite an old Flip Cup rivalry, and they just get into a whole entanglement with Dennis's old fraternity, and the guy that they were originally trying to reignite the rivalry with, they end up losing interest. All right, everyone, thanks for sticking around. That's gonna be a wrap for season 5. I'm gonna get season 6 out for you latest Christmas morning, preferably Christmas Eve, because season 6 has the Christmas special. But in the meantime, if you would like and subscribe, that would really help me out. I also love comments. I love reading all of them. And we'll see you in a few days.
Get one.
Okay, well, I'll...
One.
It's actually video right now. I have it set back up because I'm trying to record the thing I was recording.
Thank you for recording me on Just Shield Day. It's been really nice, and Merry Christmas, guys.
Hey, Merry Christmas.
And Berkeley, shout out Berkeley. You guys made me famous. Thank you very much.
Hey, you have a good one, all right?